Hello and welcome to the Next Wave Digital Video. I'm Tony Reale.
And I'm Ben Carlson.
Welcome to our brand new show. I've been saying that a lot lately, actually.
That's right.
But this is our new show. We're calling this Filmmakers React. And the idea behind this show is simply we're going to look at things that we've seen on YouTube, on film scenes, whatever it might be. You guys, I'm hoping that eventually you guys maybe give us some suggestions on things that you like. But the general idea is we're gonna watch it and we're gonna just share our thoughts on it. Things that we might have noticed, things that inspire us. For me, a lot of times, I'm probably sure for a lot of you guys too, when I come across an ad or a scene from a movie or something like that that really is like, that was cool, and it inspires me, I keep a YouTube playlist of just those things so that I can come back to it. So when we're pitching clients, you know, a lot of times when you're working with clients, you want to try and get them, you might have an idea in your head and it's hard to convey it to them. Right. So we'll do what's called a style sheet. In marketing, it's very common. So that, like, these are the colors, this is the tone, this is the imagery we want it to feel like. Well, in video, you know, a lot of times we'll use video examples, so commercials. So again, we'll keep an ongoing playlist of just things that inspire us over time. And I thought, hey, it'd be kind of fun to just talk about those things that we like, the inspiration of what we liked about them, what we thought was interesting. Recently on TV, I was watching and I saw some ads for Hotels.com, and they had this kind of symmetrical Wes Anderson feel to it that I thought was really cool. And we actually ended up using that style to pitch one of our clients for some of their commercials. So anyways, this is our first episode, so I thought it would be a great place to start off because it's fairly fresh in my memory. So I will say in these reacts, we have watched this stuff before. This isn't like us going in completely green, but we're gonna go ahead and share that whole experience.
Yet, again, like Tony said, maybe there's some where you say, hey guys, blind react to this, let us know down in the comments. Well, this is gonna be an evolving thing, a changing thing, an exciting thing, so.
You tell us what you think is cool.
We want your suggestions of what you've seen, what you wanna see us react to.
So again, you can see kind of the symmetry of what's happening there. We've got this these really, really clean camera moves. You know, it's hard to tell whether they were done motion control or whether they were done just by, you know, I'm guessing maybe they were using a geared head. So if you've ever seen a geared head, basically you're using these rotational knobs instead of just a traditional pan tilt head, and that allows operators, I've never gotten comfortable with one yet, something maybe down the road, but allows you to really kind of lock in exactly where you want the camera to be moving. So if we were shooting this, I might consider doing a motion control move on some of this stuff, just because that gives you some of that really, really clean, fast, simple motion. So again, one thing that I love is just the consistency of the symmetry here. So we've got these lines, they're all lining up as you see the camera moves. Look at how those lines continue
every
to
shot,
move. Everything.
It stays the same.
And that's super important to get this kind of look to be consistent across this, all these perspective lines. And again, if you also look at the ad, you see this camera motion. So once that motion begins here, we come to a stop, camera tilts down, then we have a pull out, and now if we follow this pull out, we see the cameras coming at, and that pacing is happening exactly the same. So this is probably a Steadicam shot, considering the fact that we're not seeing anything on the ground here. I also think it's probable that it was done on maybe a Technicrane, because if you look at the rigidity of the motion here, so we've got like how locked off this shot is. I mean, I know a good Steadicam operator can still do this, but where it goes from locked to motion.
It would be hard for a Steadicam operator to be able to repeat that over and over.
And they're also going, like, if you look at the stuff they're going over the top of right here, so like all of this stuff right here, this stuff would be, that Steadicam, I don't know where the Steadicam operator would be able to work. So I'm guessing this is probably done with a Technicrane.
So I like to believe that this was done by just a really good Steadicam ninja that was like back hurtling over. I think that's a much more entertaining.
Well, and if you also look at like the motion of what's happening over here, so we've got the camera push in and then the tilt down. Again, like you gotta understand like how a Steadicam works. The Steadicam doesn't have a head at the end of it. Right. So for it to push in like that and then tilt down, it's more than likely this was done as a 1 or 2 day shoot, maybe more. I don't know. Yeah. But and so they would have rented a Technicrane for the entire production, and so using that across it, because again, when you're renting a piece of equipment, you're incorporating it into everything. For us, a lot of times we'll do like we're gonna do a dolly shot, and then all right, now we're gonna do a gimbal shot. So we'll stop, move the camera over to that. So one thing I've kind of gotten in the habit of recently is being able to have multiple camera packages just kind of ready to go, because like I've got multiple Sony cameras, 700, FS700, FS5, FX6 most recently, and then I also have my Red Epic W, which shoots 8K, and recently I'd gotten the Blackmagic Pocket 6K that I kind of kept on my DJI Ronin RS2 as just a ready to go rig, because trying to strip down the Red to get it onto my original Ronin gimbal stopped the production.
Yeah.
So we could be continuing to roll on the Red, and then when we need to go to the gimbal, I would just grab the Pocket 6K on the gimbal. It's all balanced and ready to go, and that just sped things up. So it meant buying more equipment, but it also meant that because a lot of times I love shooting on the gimbal when it's the right tool for the job, but it can halt production rapidly if you need to, because we got to really optimize, especially the Red. You know, it's a very heavy camera.
It's a beast.
It's compact, but it's still heavy. So getting it perfectly balanced meant stripping every non-essential thing. I even got like some of the mini Red V-Lock batteries just to get it as light as possible. So
what you're saying is you don't think it was a Steadicam Ninja. You're dispelling that hypothesis?
I think it wasn't.
All right.
And even like this shot here, so what's fascinating to me is I'm curious again, like obviously they cut the back out of this, but so look at how blurry it is, like right along here. We've got this, so they're using a pretty extremely wide angle lens to kind of match that symmetry that's happening. And it's very, very out of focus, and you're getting like chromatic aberration. So yeah, I'm just, again, curious what kind of lenses they use, because I have some ultra wide angles, some like 11 mils and even an 8 mil lens. Yeah. And there are times that but again, we're not having that fisheye look that's happening. So, you're still getting the
straight
rectilinear, I think is the correct term for that.
Ooh, that's a nice word.
It is, yeah.
Well, not only the straight lines, but like you were showing before, we're still able to keep those same guiding lines all the way through, which changing up lenses and framing, I mean, that's really impressive.
And I'm curious as well, because again, where the sight line goes, so if we back up here and we see, so again, where our sight lines are right here, so I'm gonna hit play again, pull up my little righty, so we got that line right there. See where that line is consistent across everything? Yeah. So even with look at that. I mean, that line is consistent across where you're looking. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't always follow when they're doing these match moves.
Sure.
Is you want, because where your eye is looking, especially when it's that rapid and that quick, it's uncomfortable for somebody's eye line to change. So here's a quick tip if you're doing TikTok videos or doing stuff where you're punching in and out rapidly, very popular, of course, on TikTok, to punch in and out a lot. Try and keep the eye line at the same position when you punch in, so that, and even do something like have it like a little guiding line for you. Because when you punch in, if your eye line's up here and up down, it's just disconcerting for people. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the second ad in this campaign. And again, we're seeing that same symmetry already off the top. Now, one thing I like here is all the negative space up here. So we've got all this negative space, which I think is an interesting choice. A lot of times when you're doing a follow move like this, I've done these all the time, a lot of times you'll be composed more potentially like this. You might have the frame more like this, where that person is filling the majority of the frame. And I think they made an interesting choice to let it have this negative space, because this is hotels.com. We're showcasing the hotel. Yeah. We're not showcasing the person specifically. Even these ads are the copy and the ads are from the perspective of the hotel. Sure. Like, I'm this type of hotel. I'm a business hotel. I'm a fun hotel, whatever. Yeah. So again, we're showcasing the hotel, not the people necessarily.
Yeah. Just as a tip, whether it's photography, videography, even just your personal, if you're going on a trip, this is a great format to follow, where I do this all the time, where you take the phone, flip it upside down, and you put the subject in the bottom, and that fills up a lot more of that negative space, but it creates a much more immersive experience to, what was I experiencing in that moment? And so I think they do it really well, and they employ it really well in this ad.
All right, so we got a typewriter. And so here's an interesting shot. But let's talk about this one for a while. So again, we're doing a tilt down. Okay, so I think I've watched this many times, and every time I'm trying to find where they hide that transition. Sure. So I can't really go frame by frame here, but if we go a little bit, we're seeing this perspective here, and then we're punching in here. And then of course they're hiding it right in there. So we pull out. So it's just a great little transition that pulls out. So again, I'm curious if they green screen that, if they literally cut out the material, because we're getting some reflections over here. So obviously this area is reflecting potentially this area. And, you can even see that it's negative because it's darker there. So the question is, of course, how that's it could be a replacement, a green screen. I mean, it's not impossible to do that, but that's really clean to have been able to do that.
Sure.
So.
Well, and just from a practical standpoint, if this is something that you want to recreate, because this is one, when I saw this, I was like, it was this small little inspiration where I said, how can we incorporate an entire campaign around that? And if you want to do this at home, I mean, really, you could do this pretty practically. If you had your set design where you use that floor, you get a round, flat surface, and you just take that same material, put it over the top, whether it's wood flooring and you go to a shiplap on the wall, or like this where you turn it into a piece of art. I think it was just a very creative way and something that you could do for a relatively low budget if you were trying to recreate a transition like this.
Again, hiding the reason that I found that they did such a good job with this is, again, like right in that transition period here where the camera's tilting and then we punch into that. Like, it's a fairly slow move. A lot of times when you hide those transitions, it's a whip pan or whip tilt or whatever like that. And they didn't do it as a whip. I mean, there's a lot of motion blur in there, but there's also not a lot of motion blur. So it's impressive how well that shot was executed. And so again, this was likely, it could have been done practically, but it's also probable that was done digitally, like where you've got, so I would see the potential practical elements on that would be a shot where the camera's moving back and then the material of that curtain kind of draping over the cross of it. I've done this with like window transitions where you're coming out of a building or a car door or something like that, and then you kind of do this kind of ripple effect as you come out of the car door. So you kind of have that, you fake that their window was there in the first place and you add reflections that weren't really there. So, I mean, it's not possible they did it practically because they've done so much practically in this ad, but so again, like we talked about earlier, you notice that they're showcasing the hotel here. We've got, all this space up here that's focusing on the beauty of the hotel, less about the people, more about the hotel. So I think that's just interesting, that choice that they're making as in this process.
Well, and even, following those guiding lines, can we go back really quick?
Sure.
I mean, just from a very, to find a location that they were able to bring those lines right across, I think that was just such a creative move because you were saying a lot of this is done practically. So I think it's very intentional on how they're filming this to be able to get those movements as seamlessly as possible with as little effort as possible, which I think shows in the ad.
Very clean ending. So there you go, So they have more on their YouTube channel. I see that they've just started releasing a few new ones, but again, these were some that really inspired us. We like that symmetry, we like the Wes Anderson look. I think it's not commonly used, and it isn't just the Wes Anderson look and the fact that, they use wide angle lenses. It's the cutting style, it's the transitions, it's even the music choices, that plinky plunky,
Summer
that light the narrative, So, Well, that is our first episode of Filmmakers React.
Thank you for coming along with us.
Thank you very much. That was fun.
Yeah, that was a good time.
I think we're going to do some more. So if you have an idea for something you'd like us to react to, don't care if it could be a TV commercial, it could be a corporate video that you came across, even maybe a scene from a film, we'd be happy to do it. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
This is delicious.
It's King.
It's King
King coffee.